Hello and welcome to the Party Center Speaks podcast. This is the podcast for family entertainment centers and event venues, owners, operators, managers, and staffers looking to grow their businesses. Want to learn more about increasing booking parties, improving facility operations, and more? This podcast is for you. My name is Nydia Milton, and I am the Client Relationship and Marketing Coordinator here at Party Center Software. In this episode of Party Center Speaks, we're diving into practical strategies for small business growth and long-term sustainability. Something every FEC or just small business owner needs to master to stay competitive and thrive. Today's guest is someone who truly understands what it takes to help a small business grow, scale, and succeed, especially in the local and family entertainment space. Andy Seeley. Andy is the CEO and co-founder of Creatively Disruptive. His agency specializes in digital marketing and brand strategy for businesses like gymnastic centers, FECs, play-based facilities, and so much more. Andy and his team have helped so many businesses attract more customers, increase revenue, and build stronger brands through strategic, results-driven marketing. Andy, welcome to our podcast.
Hi, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you for inviting me. I'd love to, uh, I'm excited to chat with you about all these important topics, I think.
Awesome. So let's begin with a broad scale. We know that growth isn't always linear. What does growth look like to a lot of the businesses that you've helped?
Well, I think it's all a very individual story, right? I think everybody has their own personal, things that happen in their lives, both good and bad. And some people have a very linear, they start here and they go here. Other people go like this and they get there. It was funny. I once was talking to a client, gosh, it was just after COVID, maybe a couple of years after COVID, and they started at, I think the revenue was, and this was a very small business. They started and their revenue was at about 25,000 a month. They were trying to get out of the difficulties of COVID, and they ended their last month in December was at like 95,000, right? And if you just draw a line between 25,000 and 95,000, it's like, oh, that's nice. That's pretty
Going up.
good, right? You've like four times your business in a year just after COVID when there was still things, right? There was things that we were still dealing with, which was kind of tough. But she was really down and she was quite upset about it. And I had to kind of like draw the line between to show her, the
Yeah.
different where she started the year and where she ended the year. Because the reality is her year kind of went like this,
Mhm.
and then it went up, and then it came down to
Yeah.
where she was in December. So she actually had a couple of months where she actually got way ahead of where things were, and I think her biggest month was $140,000 of revenue. So our short-term memory and so forth, she was looking at it going, oh my gosh, I was at 140 and now I'm only at 95. And I was like, hang on a second, let's look at things from a quarter by quarter standpoint. And if you actually look at the quarter by quarters and you just draw between the lines, even from a revenue growth, if you say, okay, quarter one, you made this amount of revenue. Quarter two, you made this amount of revenue. Quarter three, you made this amount of revenue. It actually was a nice steady incline, right? Um, the upsies and downsies that is called life can sometimes break your heart or make you smile, right? So it's important to have a look at periods of length that are long enough that can actually fill your heart with excitement. Because one of the biggest things that I see on these journeys with small business owners, especially in the family entertainment center kind of realm, um, is it's not linear, right? It's
Yeah.
seasonal, right? I'm in Phoenix, right? We've got an upside down kind of thing where in the summer everyone wants to come inside, no one wants to be outside in Phoenix in the summer, and everybody wants to be outside in the winter, which is the opposite if you're in like say, Chicago or something,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so things can be all over the place. And one of the things that we do as a consulting stroke agency, growth agency for these businesses, one of the first things we do is a thing called a result action plan, which helps them find out where they are, where they want to be. And part of that is a 3-year growth plan, what we actually call the 12Q plan. So 12 quarters, right? No one should look at their life through what happens each day. Definitely if you're running ads online, right? Because you can have a great day and a bad day and a great day. You know this. You're
Yes.
in this. And there is sometimes no rhyme or reason if you look at things day to day or hour to hour, which some people do. But when you take it out to a week, to a month, to a quarter, you start getting some real trends that you can actually look at and go, okay, are we on the right track? From a financial revenue standpoint and from a customer delivery and from a all the different factors, client testimonials and reviews, to revenue to staff training and all of that sort of stuff. I like to go quarters to quarters. But the key factor that I see between the businesses that struggle and the businesses that are successful in whatever business they are have a clear goal in mind that means something to them rather than me coming in, me meeting you, Nadia, and you going, I want to make $50,000. Okay, is that monthly? Is that yearly? Is that daily? Why not? Why 50? Why not 100,000? Why not 25? Why 50? And break that out because many times people will say, I want to make $50,000, let's say per month. And it's because it sounds like a lot of money or it sounds good. But then when you break down the numbers and look at everything, they're actually not making any money. Maybe they actually have to make 85,000 to actually start really making money for themselves, right? Because there's costs and things that are involved with it. So there's a lot of stuff that you got to break through. And as a marketing agency, we're probably what makes us very different is we do break down into that stuff. But the real success is knowing exactly what you want, knowing exactly where you are and what your situation is, and then going, I want to be here, and then having some knowledge or having some people that have the knowledge of what you need to be when you come up to here, and then you develop your company to be that, and then you go like little elephant. You've got this elephant you want to eat. You just start taking all those little bites, and you get there. And having someone to hold your hand on that journey. So when you have some rough spots, you don't go, oh, this is so hard, I give up. Because almost everybody is going to have those give up moments. Like I probably would say that the most successful people that I know, including myself, the most key factor is the not giving up, right? Because everybody's going to have a rough spot. And what keeps you from giving up is knowing that you started here, knowing that the goal is here, breaking it down into 12 little quarters and seeing where you're going on that journey. And if you started here and then you're here, and then you're here, and then maybe you go here, but then you go, and then you can look back and say, oh, we were there, but now we're here. I know we want to get up there, but let's just keep going. And you've broken all of the metrics down into those quarterly spots.
So it seems like there's really not one look to growth. And kind of how the story that you gave earlier, it's very individual. It could be different person to person. It could look different. It could also mean different things. Like you kind of give the example, 50K to one person might not be that much to the next. And so kind of also the story that you gave earlier when the young lady wasn't really looking at her growth in a positive light. That's interesting because growth can be exciting. And although it does have up and downs, it can be exciting, but sometimes we don't look at it like that. So how can you prevent that burnout? And how can you know that although you might be going through a lot and you're just pushing through it, you're built on the right foundation and you can sustain this way?
Yeah, so almost always burnout is when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Burnout is almost always I'm in this rough spot and I cannot see that. I can't see how it ends. I feel like I'm going to be in this situation forever. We see a lot of because we work with a couple of hundred businesses, and what we've seen a lot of times to help these owners not burn out is them seeing the path, seeing the goal, understanding what that is. And if you don't know how to connect the dots to get to that path, find team members like yourself, right? Like if you work with your company, if they're working with your company literally has a plethora of services and resources to help connect those dots to get them where they need to go to. And that magically takes away that burnout. All of a sudden, when you're like if I said to you, hey, Nadia, we're going to ride a bike and we're going to ride from Phoenix to LA, right? That's 500 miles. And if I just said that to you, you'd be like, no, I don't know if I'm going to do that, right? You'd be like, no. But then if I go, okay, but this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it over a month. And we're just going to bike to Buckeye first from Phoenix. And it's like about 15 miles. And then we're going to stop there. And there's a nice restaurant here. And we're going to do these things. I'm going to stay in this nice hotel. And then we're going to bike to this location. And we're going to do this. And we're going to do it. And if I break it down and show you, you might actually be excited about biking to LA 500 miles, right? And instead of getting halfway along and being burnt out, you're like, well, Andy did say it's going to take a month. We are stopping at all these cool places. I've had all these kind of cool experiences, and I'm looking forward to what's coming in the future. It's hard work, but I'm loving it.
Exactly.
And
And
and it
that's
can,
kind of what I thought earlier when you were telling that story about the young lady, because I was like, well, she did not see light at the end of the tunnel. But something else you just said related because it does take businesses, like ours or even yours to kind of take these business owners away from the elephant. They kind of stand too close to the elephant. They see the gray, the scales, the ashy, and they're like, ugh. But we have to back them up, see the whole picture of this majestic, beautiful animal that is their business. So I definitely think that's important. And laying the right foundation, having the right systems and softwares in place definitely helps your business be sustainable. But
Right.
with that, from your experience, what are some of the biggest misconceptions or blind spots you've seen with the small businesses when they're trying to grow in a sustainable way?
So there's a few, but I'd say the biggest thing that I see where things fall apart is small businesses trying to do it all themselves. Small business owners kind of like carrying the whole elephant on their back.
Yep.
And depending on how the size of the elephant, and I would imagine even a baby elephant is kind of hard to carry on your back.
Yeah.
But you're just not going to have success doing it by yourself. Business is a team sport, right? So you need to build a team around you. Now that involves, your employees. So a group of employees that you have working for you, and they need to be on task. They need to be on plan. They need to be great. They need to be in sync with you, and everything is better. But more so than that, contractors, service agencies, people, companies like ours, companies like yours, you build this group of people that are working for your success to help you, right? And the way I look at it, and I think where my personal success comes from is ultimately I'm quite a lazy person. I'd much rather just be sitting by the pool or going on a vacation. I'd rather not be working, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I've got a little 7-year-old boy. I'd much rather be playing with him than actually working on stuff. So what that means is if I'm going to do that, but I'm going to deliver for people and I'm going to offer a really good service that changes people's lives, which is really truly deep down a desire that I have. Um, I need to find people that are really good and put them around me to help execute my vision, right? And I look at it from I'm good at certain few things. I'm not good at everything. I cannot carry the elephant by myself. And I go, let's find somebody who's really good at this thing that I'm really bad at, and then let's look at this. And I kind of like go, okay, what am I the worst at? And then I find someone who's really good at that, and I put them in. All of a sudden, my
Create
business
that
is very much
balance and really lay that foundation there.
and I would say so the from a blind spot standpoint, I would say to cut it without detail, I would say the biggest thing is when they try to do it themselves and they don't build a team around you. And I'll just add this last thing to that again. And this is going to sound like I'm some kind of like preacher or something, but I'm going to keep saying the same thing. If you've got that clear plan of where you are, who you are, and where you want to go and what you want to be, because who you are today will need to change to get to here. You can't be the same thing, right? The company needs to evolve. You will change as a person as you take this journey, and it's just normal, right? The clearer you have this little bit in between mapped out through people like us or people like you guys, the easier it is to translate that to your team. So when your team really thoroughly understands it, even more chance that you're going to get there in the success. You can't be doing this 24/7, right? You can't be doing this 365 days of the year. You've got to look at nowadays, you've got to look at things like AI. So you can do things 24/7, 365 days of the year. You got to have automation, which I know you guys are all about and have a lot of
Yeah,
experience with. You got to do this stuff because just because you're not available at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday doesn't mean there's not a mom looking to book a birthday party at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday, right?
exactly.
So knowing exactly what you're trying to do and where you want to be and what you want to and how it needs to work allows you to translate that to your team who's trying to implement it as well, whether it's AI or actual people or vendors or service agencies or your lawyer or accountant or whatever really makes things much more likely. And all of a sudden you'll go from being part of that 99% of small businesses that fail in the first 5 years to being that 1% that actually does have
Know the
success.
difference. Yeah, have
Yeah.
that long-term sustainability.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have create a plan, get a good team together,
Yeah.
and be mindful of your time, cognizant of what you can and cannot do with the 24 hours a day you're given.
Yeah.
So now, aside from those things, let's say someone they think they're doing it, they have those three locked down in their head, but they still feel overwhelmed or stuck. Maybe they've plateaued in their business, or maybe they're trying to recover from a slow season. What would your advice be for getting back on the right track?
So almost like in many of the businesses that we've worked, we've actually got a video. It's a 15-minute video, which is called Unstick Your Business. Funny that, right?
Yeah,
Almost always there becomes a disconnect between the value of the product that you're selling and the team that's selling it and you, right? So what ends up happening there is, let's say you're like, well, I can't afford to charge any more money for my product because I'm worried about losing a customer or not getting customers. I can't pay enough to my staff who are good, so I can attract really good people to help me execute whatever I've got going on.
Yeah.
I can't afford to market myself and get myself out to my community so they know about me. And you get stuck in this kind of like place where it's like, well, I don't want to raise my prices because I don't want to lose customers because I've got a few customers that know
Yeah.
about me. And if I
You're in
raise
a
my
rock
prices,
and a
they'll
hard
go away.
place.
And I don't, and I have not the greatest staff because all I can hire is teenagers because all I'm paying is $15 an hour.
Yeah.
And then because I'm not really making any money, I can't actually market myself. So I can't actually get to where I want to be. And to give you an example, again, with a kids' activity, this was a swim school. And this is a 100% a real story that we literally did. I think we did it last year to this year. So last year, the swim school reached out to us and they were like, I hate it. Because we were looking at acquiring some kids' activity centers, and they reached out to us, and I spoke to them at length. I spoke to them about 4 or 5 times, and they were talking that burnout that you were talking about. I'm burnt out. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I walked through what it was, and it wasn't that they were burnt out. They loved teaching swim. They were basically a swim coach that wanted to make money, so they started a swim school. And they weren't burnt out from teaching the kids. They loved the kids. They loved teaching kids. What they were burnt out from is that they would felt like they were on a treadmill and not making any money and just hitting their head against the brick wall. And they felt like they owned a job, not a business. So we looked at what they had going on. They were charging below market rates, right? Because I was scared. They thought that was the only way they could compete was to be the cheapest. But what that also caused them to do is have a whole bunch of teenagers that were working for him, and he couldn't. People would call off. It would be the coach would
Yeah.
a teenage coach would call in and say, my boyfriend wants to take me to the movies. I can't come this Friday. Can someone take, that kind of stuff was happening. It would drive him nuts, which would make him
Yeah.
feel worse about the business. So what we did, and then ultimately he wasn't making enough money to actually promote it. So what we said to him is, this is the way to unstick it. We want you to raise your prices to, by $10, right? Just $10. We want you to look at your average, what the average adult in your local community gets paid for a part-time job. So go to Costco, go to where you find adults that work part-time jobs, find out how much they pay your staff that. And that he was gulping like, oh my God, really? And then what we're going to do is with that $10 increase, we're going to use that to help pay your team that extra, which did actually more than cover it. And then with the residue, we're going to put that into the marketing to actually make sure there's more parents that knew. And what you've now done is you've broken that cycle to the opposite cycle. So you've got parents who are paying the amount. Now, granted, they lost some people, but that $10 increase was still profitable, right? They
Those
lost
supplements of that.
that $10 going to the staff meant he was able to recruit better staff over that year period, right? So no longer was there reviews on Google saying, I didn't bring my kids to this swim school to be taught by kids. All of a sudden, they were, the reviews were, oh, I can't believe that Nadia is so amazing. She so knows how to coach, and we love Coach
Yeah.
Nadia. That's the kind of reviews that were happening. And all of a sudden, there was more people reaching out because suddenly he was spending some money. Not a lot. I think it was maybe about $800 a month on just making sure that all the mums within a 10-mile radius around his swim school knew that he existed. And
Yeah.
those three things, unplugging those three things, switched it totally on his ear to the point that this year just gone, he raised it by $10. He's raised it another $10. And he's way on his way to some pretty serious profitability. And where we're trying to go to, while we're not raising prices too much, he was so below what other swim schools were charging. He was like $50, $60 a month lower than the other swim schools. So
Yeah.
he's still
You don't want
$40.
to shock those customers.
Right. But he's now $20 better off per customer per month than what he was. And I think he had at the time 200 clients. That $20 is $4,000 extra that he has to spend on staffing. And when you've got part-timers, that can be a big difference. And all of a sudden, he's not getting people calling on him to come back in to teach swimming. He's able to have his Friday nights off because he doesn't have somebody calling off to go and watch a movie. Life is feeling better, and there's more money coming in, and things are moving in the right direction. So I know that was a bit of a detailed, long-winded little
Yeah.
story there, but that was literally something that we did last year, and that's something we see so regularly. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And especially for FECs, those who are like, should we raise our food prices, our arcade, our merchandise, our skates, bowling? And they're like, well, we don't want to lose it to the next skating rink down the street or the next trampoline park or the big ones, if they're a small business, the larger corporations. So it makes a lot of sense. And how you mentioned that about the reviews and what the parents would say, that's a big thing for FECs as well. Like the moms and even the dads having their birthday parties, the aunts, the cousins, and even the schools, because the word gets around quick.
If your focus is on how do I save people money by coming and bowling with me, you're actually in the wrong mindset. What you want to be thinking about is how do I make sure that we're delivering an exceptional experience? So when they come, they have a memorable time and they keep talking about it. What can we do to delight these customers? So, because the difference between happiness and delight is I'm going to talk to Nadia and tell her all about what just happened. I'm so delighted. I've got to tell someone about it. So, what are you doing to delight them and not save the money? If you're totally focused on saving the money, that's tough work. Tough work. If you're focused on quality of product and delighting your customer, that becomes magic.
Yeah. And guest experience has to be tight. And I know the last thing we want is to even impact our external perception or our brand based off of what we're going through internally as a company, as an FAC or a business. And how would you say businesses can scale up without sacrificing that quality of their customer experience?
Honestly, if it's set up right, the quality of the customer experience will supercharge the growth of the company, right? And it's a hand in hand thing done right. So again, I'm going to come back to team. You have the right group of people who are committed to the cause and the goals. They understand the goals that you're trying to do. Even the smallest, lowest ranking person, they understand the goals. Like we share all of our financial goal, all of our financial situation and goals with our most junior person to our most senior person, so they know exactly what the company is doing and where we're headed. You get a team of people fighting the good fight, standing at your side, wanting to deliver exceptional experiences and delight your customers. You're going to be dragged to success by your team. And,
Yeah.
um, you know, if I'm honest with you, you get a reputation in a local area to be an amazing place to work. You'll never have problems finding staff. You pay the right amount of money, you're going to find committed, mature staff, not just kids. There's a place to hire kids, but I do highly recommend that if you're thinking, oh, you know what, if I save $5 an hour by not paying this one person, $20, instead of 15, that extra $5 could be worth several $100s an hour to you. And I think most people want to do well. Like no one wants to get a job and not do well. No one, I mean, maybe they do, I don't know, but most people don't say, hey, I want to work for you, Nadia, and I want to really suck, right? Most people are like, I want to work for you, Nadia, and I want to be the best employee that you want. Whether or not they do it is kind of up to you and their personality. That sometimes gets missed too, especially when I'm trying to pay as little as possible because that's how I make my money. You're going to end up getting the person who just fills a hole, and that's a dangerous place for experiential type businesses to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so if you had to give one practical strategy that is the most underrated, you think that you've seen businesses do that you haven't seen a lot or that you haven't suggested a lot, but it works for growth and long-term sustainability, and you've seen it work time and time again, anytime it's implemented, what would that strategy be?
Okay, so let's say you've got your goals, you know what you want to do, where you are, you got all that sorted out. Let's say you've got a good strategy to make sure you're hiring good quality people that are likely to delight people. You've got all of those well sorted out. What we see, especially in the family entertainment center industry, is a lack of trying to communicate with their community, right? So they'll communicate with the community with some flyers or so, but there's no cohesive strategy to go, how do I reach the most important person in my community, which is the mum? Unfortunately, I'm a dad. I'm not as important as my wife, unfortunately, when it comes to businesses and decision making. If she says, no, we're not going somewhere, sorry, Andy, you're not going anywhere, right? Um, if I say, hey, I want to go here, and she says, no, we're not going there, we're going here, guess what? We're going where she says we're going, right? That's how it works, especially when it comes to the kids. So what's amazing right now, if you've got all those other ducks in a row, the marketing that you can do with Google, with Meta, with TikTok, with all the different brands, with email and everything, you can really target in on the mums in a 10-mile radius. We call it making you a household name in your 10-mile radius. So all
Yeah.
those mums are talking about you. Over time, if you're reaching out to them, as you're reaching out to them, it becomes a branded situation where there's sometimes mums talking about your business because they can't remember where they've seen you, but they've seen you on Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They've seen you all around, right? And remember the old marketing adage that the more places that they see you, the more ingrained into their psyche that you are. And they start
Exactly.
talking about your business at the playground, right? And
Yeah.
two mums are standing there and they're like, God, I've got to bring little Johnny. I've got little Johnny's birthday party coming up. Oh, hey, have you heard of Nadia's Play Center? They do great birthdays there. Do you want to do that? And that mum might not even gone to Nadia's Play Center for a birthday party, but
Exactly.
she saw some ads and she saw that. And the beauty of it, we live in a landscape now where, as a small little business with not large budgets, you actually can make that happen for 800, $1,000 a month in ad spend, right? And that 800,000 bucks a month, if you think about, your birthday party might be 200, 300, maybe $500 for one birthday party. How many birthday parties do you need to sell for that $1,000 spend to make it worthwhile? Maybe 10. If you got 10 birthday parties and you're charging $400 for a birthday party, and you got 4,000 for that 1,000, probably worth doing,
Yeah.
right? And we do live in a time right now where that's a real magic source because of Meta kind of evening up the odds when it comes to small business and big business, right? In fact, small business has better, um, a much easier job of marketing to micro markets. So like 10 mile radiuses. Coca-Cola, that's a much harder job to do. I mean, they've got loads of resources. I'm sure they can do it.
Yeah.
But Nadia's Play Center, you can like cut through it all and they go, oh, what's this? This is a local thing that I like, And they're
Yeah,
going to see
exactly.
Coca-Cola. It's just, they just see it all the time and they might not even realize that they saw a Coca-Cola ad, but they're going to see your ad and they see it over and over and they're like, we got to go and check that place out. I'm bringing my kid to her birthday party because that looks like great fun because I've seen 10 ads in 10 different places. So I would say that would be a strategy that you have to explore. And I do
Community
recommend,
involvement and engagement.
absolutely. You got it.
Awesome. Amazing insights. And thank you, Andy. Thank you again for joining us today and sharing some practical strategies to grow your business sustainably. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into this episode of Party Center Speaks. I hope what we shared today was useful for family entertainment centers and event venues everywhere. If you have any feedback or any topics you'd like for us to discuss, please be sure to email marketing@partycentersoftware.com. This is a weekly podcast, so you can expect new episodes every Thursday. Party Center Speaks is powered by Party Center Software. We are a facility management tool that helps film entertainment centers and event venues book more parties, manage their facilities, and grow their business. We also offer marketing services such as custom website design, digital advertising and SEO services, marketing automations, social media assistance, and everything you need to help you expand your reach and grow traffic. If you'd like to learn more about us or our vendor program, head on over to partycentersoftware.com and be sure to follow us at Party Center Software on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and LinkedIn, and Party Center Soft on X. Until next time, thanks for listening.